I pretended not to understand French while two chefs discussed my husband's secret dealings. They said his client gets the private menu. I thought he was cheating, but the truth was a conspiracy that could send them all to prison. After 5 years as a food critic in Lyon, I developed a chronic aversion to oversalted sauces and pretentious waiters. So when my husband, Mark, surprised me with a dinner at L'Alchemist, the city's most exclusive French restaurant, I was excited to practice my critique again. But when the chef started setting up a flambe station near our table, barely acknowledging us beyond tight, professional smiles, I decided to just relax and stay quiet, like any other customer. 20 minutes in, they started chatting to each other in rapid-fire French. It was pretty loud, but I just let their familiar accent wash over me while they worked on their culinary performance. Then one, the younger one, asked the other how much longer their shift was. 3 more hours. At least this couple tips well, the head chef replied, his hands expertly searing a piece of foie gras. He added, her husband is a big spender. He wants to impress his new client. A French phrase for a wealthy man. That's when the tone shifted. The wife, though, the younger one, clicked his tongue. Look at all that stress in her face. Like curdled milk. My body tensed involuntarily, but I forced myself to relax, breathing steadily like I was just adjusting to the heat from the flames. These lines around her eyes, too. You can tell she works too hard. Probably let herself go. They both laughed softly. The husband could do so much better. Any French woman would keep herself beautiful for a man like that. My husband, blissfully unaware, let out a contented sigh next to me. You know what's sad? The one working on the sauce continued, digging his whisk in harder. She probably thinks this dinner will fix things. Like we can flambe away 10 years of neglect. They kept going, discussing what they imagined my job was, how I probably trapped my husband with ambition, how American women age like cheap wine, not Grand Cru. Well, I'd heard worse from the critics in Lyon. Everyone there is obsessed with appearances and male validation. It's just the way it is, but was never said directly to my face. The second chef glanced at me, saw my eyes closed, and got bolder. Look at her, pretending to sleep. Probably embarrassed her husband has to see her so worn out. I would be too with that portfolio. That was the moment I stopped feeling bad for them and decided to let them play themselves. Should we recommend the caviar pairing? One asked. The commission is good. She needs a vacation, not caviar, the other laughed. But yes, let's try. Americans are stupid with money. Perfect. I made a small please sound, like I was enjoying the aroma. I felt their hands pause, probably smirking. 10 more minutes. 5 more minutes. They described in vivid detail how they'd steal my husband if they could, what they do to keep him happy, how French women understand real pleasure. Finally, as we neared the end of our main course, the head chef moved to our table for the final plating. I was just about to reveal that I knew the language until suddenly the younger chef said, wait, can I tell you something? Talking to the head chef, he giggled like it was a secret, and I was nosy. What? The other one asked quietly. This isn't the first time I'm seeing her husband with that client. My heart started pounding. I kept my breathing steady, eyes closed. He continued, he brings her here, and he always asks for the private menu. My whole world tilted. He said his wife doesn't take care of him, that they haven't had any real passion for months. I opened my eyes under the dim restaurant lighting, staring at the tablecloth. I lay there, frozen, my mind racing. The words echoed in my head. Private menu. Doesn't take care of him. Months without passion. My stomach churned as the waiter cleared our plates. Is everything to your liking? He asked in English, his voice sweet and professional. Fine, I managed to say, my voice steady despite the tremor in my chest. Mark groaned contentedly on the chair next to me. The sound made my skin crawl. How many times had he been here? How many times had he complained about me to strangers while asking for? I couldn't even think the words. The chefs finished their work and moved on, probably satisfied they'd share enough gossip for one session. My mind spun through possibilities. Maybe they were lying, trying to impress each other. Maybe they had him confused with someone else. Maybe, but the details were too specific. They recognized him. They knew things. 20 minutes felt like hours. When we were finally done and they left us to pay, I moved mechanically, pulling out my credit card while Mark stretched and sighed happily. That was amazing, he said, signing the bill. We should do this more often. I nodded, not trusting my voice. My hand shook as I gathered my purse. At the valet, I watched Mark tip generously, our usual 20%. The chefs, standing near the entrance, smiled and thanked us. No hint of their earlier conversation on their faces. I forced myself to smile back, not wanting to seem suspicious or bitter. The head chef's eyes met mine briefly, and I saw a flicker of something. Pity? Amusement? I looked away. The walk to the car felt endless. Mark chatted about how relaxed he felt, how the food was even better than he remembered. I made appropriate sounds, my mind elsewhere. As we reached the car, it hit me with crushing clarity. I had absolutely no proof of anything. Just overheard gossip in a language my husband didn't even know I spoke. "You're quiet," Mark said as he started the engine. "Everything okay?" "Just relaxed," I said, staring out the window. "Good. You needed this." He reached over and squeezed my knee. "You've been so tense lately." The drive home took 15 minutes. 15 minutes of Mark humming along to the radio while I replayed every word, every detail. When did he come here without me? How often? What exactly had happened? "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual. "Do you ever have business dinners without me? You know, when you're closing a deal." He glanced at me briefly before turning back to the road. "Sometimes, when it's a late-night thing or out of town." "What?" "No hesitation. No telltale signs of lying. Just an easy, casual response. Just wondering. Maybe you should come more often, too. For networking." "You should. It really helps." At home, I made excuses about needing to catch up on emails while Mark headed for the shower. I opened my laptop at the kitchen table, my fingers hovering over the keyboard before typing in our bank login. The statements loaded slowly, each second stretching endlessly. I scrolled through the last 6 months. There were restaurant charges, some I recognized from our joint visits, others on days I knew I hadn't gone. But nothing monthly, nothing suspicious. A few $100s here, 1,000 there. Standard client dinner prices. Of course, I realized with a sinking feeling he could easily pay cash for anything extra. The shower turned off upstairs. I quickly closed the browser and opened my work email, pretending to read a message about quarterly reports. When Mark came down in fresh clothes, he said, "I'm thinking of ordering some sushi for dinner." That French food made me crave something clean. The irony wasn't lost on me. "Sure," I said. While he called in our usual order, I grabbed my phone and opened a text to my friend Lisa. She'd lived in Paris for 3 years, spoke fluent French. We'd bonded over our shared experiences working abroad. "Random question." I typed, then deleted. I started again. "Hey, weird question, but what does private menu mean in a French restaurant context?" Writing an article and want to get the details right. I stared at the message, then added a laughing emoji to make it seem lighter. Sent. Mark collected his keys. "I'll go pick up the food. 20 minutes. Sound good." As soon as his car pulled out, I was Googling. Sign's husband, cheating restaurant, yielded millions of results. I scrolled through forums, Reddit threads, advice columns. The stories blurred together. Suspicious charges, changed behavior, working late. Nothing definitive. Nothing like what I'd overheard. My phone buzzed. "Lisa. LOL, what kind of article are you writing?" "But yeah, it means exactly what you think. Off menu, special services. Why are you really asking?" I stared at her message, then typed back. "Just saw in a movie, wasn't sure if it was accurate." "Thanks." Mark returned with dinner. We ate at the kitchen table, the kids at their grandparents' for the night. He talked about the big tech merger he was working on, how the client was being difficult about deadlines. I nodded, smiled, asked the right questions, all while those words played on repeat in my head. That night, when Mark reached for me in bed, I didn't pull away. I couldn't. To reject him now would seem suspicious, would change our pattern. So I went through the motions, all while wondering if his complaint about months without passion was truth or lies. Had it really been months? I tried to remember the last time before tonight, but the days blurred together. Work, kids, exhaustion. When we stopped being intimate regularly? He fell asleep quickly after, his breathing deep and even. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The red numbers on the clock glowed. 11:47 p.m., then 12:23 a.m., then 1:15 a.m. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand, careful not to disturb him. In the bathroom, I sat on the closed toilet lid and opened a new message to Mark. "We need to talk about what I heard at the restaurant today." Delete. "I know about the private menu." Delete. "How long has this been going on?" Delete. 20 different versions, all deleted. What would I even say? I speak French and overheard your chef saying you asked for special services. He'd deny it, say they were mistaken, lying, confused him with someone else. And I'd have revealed my only advantage, that I understood what they were saying when they thought I couldn't. 2:34 a.m., then 3:18 a.m. At 3:47 a.m., I gave up and took a melatonin, forcing myself back to bed. The next morning came too soon. Mark kissed me goodbye like always, mentioned he'd be working late on the merger. The same excuse he'd been using for months, I realized. How had I not noticed the pattern? "Don't wait up," he said, grabbing his coffee. "This brief is killing me." "Okay, good luck with it." After he left, I called L'Alchemist. "Good morning, L'Alchemist. How can I help you?" "Hi. I was in yesterday with my husband for dinner. I wanted to book another appointment, and I was hoping to request the same chefs. They were wonderful." "Of course, let me check. Who was working with you yesterday? What time was your appointment?" 8 p.m. "The Morrisons." "Ah, yes, I see it here. You had Jean-Pierre and Luc. When would you like to come in?" "Jean-Pierre and Luc." I wrote the names down. "Actually, let me check my schedule and call back. But thank you so much." I hung up and immediately Googled Jean-Pierre L'Alchemist. A few results came up. The restaurant's team page with a professional headshot of all their staff. Jean-Pierre smiled at the camera, his bio listing his certifications and Michelin stars. Nothing else. No social media, no reviews mentioning him specifically. Like a digital ghost. I tried variations, Jean-Pierre Chef, Jean-Pierre Paris, but without a last name, it was hopeless. There were thousands of Jean-Pierres. The doorbell interrupted my search. The kids were back from their grandparents, bursting through the door with stories about the movies they'd watched and the cookies they'd baked. "Mom, can you help with my history project?" my daughter asked, dumping her backpack on the counter. "It's due Monday, and I haven't started." "Of course, honey. What's it on?" "The French Revolution. I have to make a timeline." My son needed help with math homework. And there was lunch to make, laundry to fold, groceries to buy. Normal life swept in like a tide, washing away the morning's obsession. But even as I helped my daughter glue dates on a poster board, even as I explained fractions to my son, the words echoed underneath it all. By evening, I'd almost convinced myself I was overreacting. Maybe the chefs had been bragging, making up stories. Maybe Mark had just been friendly, and they'd misinterpreted. Maybe, but I knew what I'd heard. The certainty in their voices, the specific details. 3 days passed in a strange fog. I went to work, made dinners, helped with homework, smiled at Mark across the breakfast table, all while watching him for signs, for clues. But he was exactly the same, affectionate but not overly so, busy with work but not suspiciously so. The same Mark he'd always been. On Thursday, I told him I was booking a solo dinner at L'Alchemist for a restaurant review. "That's great, honey," he said, barely looking up from his phone. It really seemed to help last time. No reaction, no concern, nothing. I booked a solo reservation for Saturday, requesting a table near the kitchen. I needed information, but I couldn't be too obvious about it. The new waiter was younger, chattier. As he worked, I mentioned casually, "My husband, Mark, comes here sometimes. He loves this place." "Oh yes, we have many regular clients," he said, his voice professionally neutral. "It's nice when people find relief from their stress." A practiced non-response. They were trained well. He especially liked, I think his name was Jean-Pierre. He's one of our senior chefs. Very experienced. Nothing. No recognition. No gossip. No hint of impropriety. Just professional distance. I left the restaurant feeling more frustrated than satisfied. The waiter had given me nothing, and I'd wasted another $500 we couldn't really spare. The kids' college fund needed every penny, and here I was, playing detective. Over the next week, I became someone I didn't recognize. I checked Mark's pockets while doing laundry, finding only receipts for coffee and client lunches. I scrolled through his social media, looking for signs of, what? A secret restaurant review page? I even drove past L'Alchemist on a Wednesday afternoon, Jean-Pierre's scheduled day, according to their online booking system, watching businessmen enter and exit. But without going inside, without confronting him directly, what could I learn? Lisa texted me again about the article I was writing. I deflected with vague responses about plot development. She seemed to buy it, or maybe she was just being polite. Either way, I couldn't bring myself to tell her the truth. Saying it out loud would make it real. The following Tuesday, Mark mentioned he'd strained his back at the gym. My pulse quickened as he stretched, wincing. Maybe you should get a massage, I suggested, keeping my voice neutral. Good idea. I'll try to squeeze one in this week. I watched his face carefully. Nothing. No guilt, no tells. Just a man with a sore back. That evening, while Mark helped our son with his science project about the solar system, I excused myself to fold laundry in our bedroom. I opened his dresser drawer, moving aside his socks and underwear. Nothing hidden. I checked under the mattress, feeling ridiculous. What was I expecting to find? A receipt that said, "Private menu, $2,000. My daughter appeared in the doorway. "Mom, what are you doing?" My heart hammered. "Just checking if the mattress needs flipping. It's been a while." She gave me a strange look, but shrugged. "Dad says dinner's ready." At dinner, I pushed food around my plate while Mark and the kids discussed our son's upcoming basketball tryouts. Everything felt surreal, like I was watching my family through glass. How could I not sense that everything had changed? How could Mark sit there, cutting his chicken, laughing at our son's impression of his coach, when he'd possibly betrayed our marriage? "You okay?" Mark asked, noticing my full plate. "You've barely touched your food. Just not very hungry. Think I might be coming down with something." He reached across the table, feeling my forehead. "You don't feel warm. Maybe you should go to bed early." His touch made me want to recoil, but I forced myself to stay still. "Yeah, maybe." After the kids went to bed, I found myself in the bathroom again, staring at my reflection. The chef's words echoed. Stress in her face. Let herself go. I lifted my shirt, examining my stomach. 2 pregnancies had left their mark, sure. I wasn't 25 anymore. But did that justify what Mark had possibly done? I returned to bed to find Mark already asleep, snoring softly. His phone lay on the nightstand, charging. I stared at it, knowing his passcode. It hadn't changed. We always knew each other's passcodes. The next morning, I called in sick to work. After Mark left and the kids caught the bus, I drove to L'Alchemist. Not for dinner, but to sit in the parking lot like some kind of stalker. I recognized Jean-Pierre's car from my previous reconnaissance. A white Porsche with a dancing hula girl on the dashboard. An hour passed, then 2. I was about to leave when I saw Mark's silver Lexus pull into the lot. My blood froze. He'd said he had client meetings all day. I slumped down in my seat, watching as he walked inside. My phone showed 11:47 a.m. I waited, barely breathing. Cars came and went. A woman walked her dog past my car twice, giving me suspicious looks the second time. At 1:18 p.m., Mark emerged alone, looking relaxed. He got in his car and drove away. I sat there for another 10 minutes, shaking. Then I walked inside. "Hi, I don't have an appointment, but is Jean-Pierre available?" I asked the hostess. "I'm sorry, he's booked solid today. I can check his availability for next week." "That's okay, thanks." I turned to leave and almost collided with Jean-Pierre himself, carrying a bottle of wine. "Oh, excuse me," he said in accented English, not recognizing me. "No problem." I managed, my heart pounding. Back in my car, I called Mark's office. "Peterson, Carlisle, and Associates," the receptionist answered. "Hi, could I speak with Mark Morrison, please?" "I'm sorry, Mr. Morrison is in client meetings all afternoon. Can I take a message?" "No, that's fine, thank you." So he'd lied about his whereabouts, but not about having meetings. The dinner had been squeezed into his lunch break. Innocent enough, except for the deception. That evening, I watched him across the dinner table. He mentioned the client meetings, how exhausting they'd been, how he'd grabbed a sandwich at his desk between sessions. The lies flowed so easily. "You're back feeling better?" I asked. "What?" "Oh yeah, much better. That stretch you showed me really helped." Another lie. I'd shown him no stretch. After dinner, while Mark watched TV with the kids, I retreated to our bedroom with my laptop. I found myself on a forum for women who discovered their husbands had cheated. The stories were eerily similar. Fancy restaurants, private menus, lies about working late. But they all had proof. Credit card statements showing large charges, texts they discovered, lipstick on collars. I had nothing but overheard gossip in a language my husband didn't know I spoke. My sister, Rachel, called while I was deep in a thread about signs of cheating. "Hey, you missed Mom's birthday dinner planning. Everything okay?" I'd completely forgotten. "Sorry, just busy with work." "You sound weird. What's going on?" I wanted to tell her everything, but the words wouldn't come. "Mark might be cheating," I finally said. Silence. "Then what? Why do you think that?" I explained about the restaurant, what I'd overheard. It sounded insane, even in my own ears. So you think he's cheating because a chef said he asked for a private menu? Maybe they were lying. Maybe they had him confused with someone else. Men say stupid things sometimes, try to be macho. Doesn't mean anything actually happened. But he lied about going there today. Did he? Maybe he didn't think it was worth mentioning. You know how men are about self-care. They act like going to a fancy restaurant is some shameful secret. Her rational explanations made sense, but they didn't ease the knot in my stomach. After he hung up, I felt more alone than ever. Even my sister doubted me. Friday arrived with Mark announcing he'd be working late again on the merger. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. After he left, after the kids were asleep, I did something I'd sworn I wouldn't do. I drove to his office. The building was mostly dark, but I could see lights on the third floor where Mark's office was. His car sat in its usual spot in the parking garage. I waited. An hour. Then two. At 10:47 p.m., he emerged, briefcase in hand, looking exhausted. He got in his car and drove home. I followed at a distance, feeling pathetic. He was actually working late this time. Saturday morning, Mark suggested we take the kids to the farmer's market. As we walked between stalls of fresh produce and homemade jam, he held my hand, bought me flowers from a vendor, joked with the kids about the weird-looking gourds. To anyone watching, we were the perfect family. I've been thinking, he said as we loaded vegetables into our reusable bags. We should plan a vacation. Maybe Paris. We haven't been anywhere, just the four of us, in years. That sounds nice, I said, wondering if this was guilt talking or a genuine desire to reconnect. The kids immediately started debating the Eiffel Tower versus the Louvre, while Mark pulled up resort websites on his phone. I watched them, feeling like an outsider in my own family. How could I go to Paris, share a bed with him in some romantic resort, when I didn't even know if I could trust him? Sunday brought our daughter's soccer game. Mark cheered enthusiastically from the sidelines, high-fiving other parents, completely normal. I sat on the bleachers pretending to watch, while my mind turned. Maybe Rachel was right. Maybe I was creating problems where none existed. But then I remembered the chef's certainty. This isn't the first time I'm seeing her husband. I think I've seen him before. He knew him. After the game, as we drove to get ice cream to celebrate our daughter's goal, Mark's phone rang. He glanced at it, then declined the call. Who was that? I asked. Nobody. Probably spam. But I'd seen the caller ID. L'Alchemist. My blood ran cold. Why would they be calling him on Sunday? I pulled out my own phone, pretending to check messages while actually Googling their hours. Closed Sundays. At the ice cream shop, I excused myself to the bathroom and called the restaurant's number. It went straight to their after-hours voicemail. So why had someone called Mark from that number? I returned to find Mark helping our son choose between cookie dough and mint chip, laughing at our son's serious deliberation. He looked up at me, smiled, and for a moment I saw the man I'd fallen in love with 15 years ago. The man who'd stayed up all night with me when our daughter had croup, who'd surprised me with anniversary trips, who'd held my hand through my father's funeral. Was I really going to destroy our marriage over something I might have misheard? That night, I suggested couples counseling. Mark looked surprised. Is everything okay? I mean, I know we've both been stressed with work and the kids, but I just think it might help with communication. We barely have time to talk anymore. He sat down his book, giving me his full attention. If you think it would help, absolutely. Whatever you need. His easy agreement threw me off balance. Would a guilty man be so willing? I found a therapist who could see us Thursday afternoon. In the meantime, I tried to act normal. I cooked Mark's favorite meals, helped with homework, attended our son's basketball tryout. But underneath, I was constantly watching, analyzing, doubting. Wednesday came. Mark didn't mention any back pain, didn't go for a massage. I checked our credit card statement online. No restaurant charges. Of course, he could be paying cash now, knowing I'd overheard something. At our first counseling session, Dr. Winters sat across from us in a beige office that smelled like vanilla candles. She asked about our history, our concerns, our goals. I feel like we're disconnecting, I said carefully. Trust has become an issue. Mark looked genuinely confused. Trust? What do you mean? I couldn't say it. Couldn't voice my suspicions in front of this stranger. Just feeling like we're not as open with each other anymore. Dr. Winters nodded, making notes. Mark, how do you feel about trust in your relationship? I trust Clara completely, he said without hesitation. I'm worried that she doesn't trust me, though. She seemed anxious lately, checking up on me more than usual. Heat flooded my face. He'd noticed. Can you give an example? Dr. Winters asked. Just questions about my schedule, where I'm going, looking through my things. I found her going through my dresser the other day. Our daughter had told him. Of course she had. I was looking for something, I said weakly. Clara, what would help you feel more secure in a relationship? Dr. Winters asked. The word burst out before I could stop it. Honesty. Mark's face changed. Are you saying I'm dishonest? I'm saying sometimes I feel like there are things you don't tell me. Like what? I couldn't say it. Not here, not like this. Just things. The session continued with Dr. Winters guiding us through communication exercises, but I could feel Mark's confusion and hurt radiating from his side of the couch. We scheduled another appointment for the following week. In the car afterward, Mark was quiet. Finally, he said, if you think I'm lying about something, just ask me. This dancing around it is driving me crazy. Are you having an affair? The words tumbled out. He pulled over, turning to face me. What? No. Jesus, Clara, where is this coming from? You've been working late, having secret lunches. You change your phone password. I changed my password because our son kept downloading games on my phone. The lunches are for the merger. You know this. And yes, I've been working late because this deal is huge for the firm. If I make partner. He ran his hands through his hair. I can't believe you think I'm cheating. His indignation seemed real. But then, he'd seemed real at dinner when lying about his day. I'm sorry, I said, not meaning it. I heard something that made me worried. Heard what? From who? I couldn't tell him. Once I revealed I spoke French, I'd lose any chance of finding out the truth. Just gossip. It's stupid. He took my hand. Clara, I love you. Only you. I would never cheat, ever. You have to believe me. I wanted to. God, how I wanted to. We drove home in silence. That night, he showed me his phone, gave me his new password, opened his email. Look through whatever you want, he said. I have nothing to hide. I found nothing incriminating. His texts were all work-related or family logistics. His emails were boring legal documents and Amazon receipts. His photos were of the kids, our vacation last summer, screenshots of fantasy football stats. Satisfied, he asked, and I heard his voice. I'm sorry, I said again. He pulled me into a hug. We'll get through this. Whatever's making you doubt us, we'll work through it. Friday morning, I called L'Alchemist and booked an appointment with Jean-Pierre for the following Wednesday. A private cooking class. 3 weeks since I'd first tried to see him. If I was going to get answers, I needed to be strategic. The weekend passed in a blur of family activities. Mark seemed to be making an extra effort, bringing me coffee in bed, suggesting we watch my favorite movie after the kids went to sleep, holding my hand whenever we were together. Either he was genuinely trying to reconnect, or he was overcompensating for guilt. Monday arrived with our daughter announcing she needed supplies for a school project due Wednesday. After dropping the kids at school, I headed to an art supply store, list in hand. In the parking lot, I saw a familiar white Porsche with a dancing hula girl on the dashboard. My heart stopped. Jean-Pierre was here. I abandoned my cart and followed him into the store, keeping my distance. He moved through the aisles efficiently, picking up expensive oil paints, canvases, a birthday card. Normal things. Human things. It was strange seeing him outside the restaurant context. He got in line at checkout. I positioned myself 2 lines over, pretending to browse magazines while watching. That's when I saw her. Isabel, Mark's client, appeared beside him, carrying a basket of art supplies. She kissed his cheek, casual and familiar. They chatted as they waited, clearly together. My mind reeled. Jean-Pierre was dating Mark's biggest client, the one whose merger was keeping him at the office late. They left together, and I abandoned my shopping to follow them to the parking lot. They got into Isabel's BMW, Jean-Pierre leaving his Porsche behind. Back home, I Googled frantically. Isabelle Dubois, the client's name. Her company bio came up. Divorced, 2 kids. Isabelle Dubois Jean-Pierre yielded nothing. But on her Instagram page, which was mostly public, I found photos from a charity gala 2 months ago. There was Jean-Pierre, stunning in a red dress, tagged as guest of Isabelle Dubois. 2 months ago, right around when Mark started working late more often on the merger. My phone rang. Mark, hey, just wanted to let you know I'll be late again tonight. Isabel wants to go over the depositions one more time. With Isabel, I asked carefully. Yeah, we're grabbing dinner to discuss strategy. Probably be home by 10. Another lie. Or was he actually meeting with Isabel? And if so, did he know about Jean-Pierre? Okay, see you tonight. I spent the afternoon constructing scenarios. Maybe Isabel had recommended L'Alchemist to Mark. Maybe that's how Mark had met Jean-Pierre. Maybe Isabel knew about the private menu and had encouraged Mark to partake. Maybe they had some kind of arrangement. Or maybe I was creating connections where none existed, seeing patterns and coincidences. The kids came home, needing help with homework. Dinner needed cooking, permission slips needed signing. I went through the motions, all while my mind churned with possibilities. Mark came home at 9:45, looking exhausted, but pleased. Good meeting, I asked. Great. I think we got a solid strategy. Isabel's confident we'll win. That's wonderful. Hey, do you know if she's dating anyone? Mark looked puzzled by the non sequitur. Isabel? Yeah, she's been seeing someone for a few months. A chef, I think. Nice guy. Met him at some charity thing. Why? Just curious. You mention her so much, I feel like I know her. You should meet her sometime. Maybe we could do a double date when this case is over. A double date with a woman whose boyfriend had possibly offered my husband a private menu. That sounds nice. I managed. Tuesday crawled by. I accomplished nothing at work. My mind fixated on the next day's cooking class with Jean-Pierre. I'd rehearsed what to say 100 times, but nothing sounded right. That evening, our second counseling session with Dr. Winters focused on rebuilding trust. Mark participated earnestly, suggesting we share our phone locations, have regular check-ins, plan more date nights. He seemed genuinely committed to fixing whatever was broken. I still sense hesitation from you, Clara, Dr. Winters observed. What would it take for you to fully trust Mark again? I don't know, I admitted. I guess time. Time and consistency, she agreed. Trust is rebuilt through repeated positive interactions. Mark reached for my hand. I'll do whatever it takes. Looking at his earnest face, I almost canceled the appointment with Jean-Pierre. Almost. Wednesday morning, I dropped the kids at school and drove to L'Alchemist. My hand shook as I checked in. You're here for the private class with Chef Jean-Pierre. The hostess confirmed. He'll be right with you. I was led to the main kitchen, a gleaming expanse of stainless steel. The smell of herbs and butter made my stomach turn. When Jean-Pierre entered, I forced myself to breathe normally. Hello, he said with a professional smile. Ready to cook? Ready, I said, lying. He was a skilled teacher, working out the complexities of a perfect souffle. We were 15 minutes in before I worked up the courage to speak. My friend recommended you, I said casually. Isabel Du Bois. His hands paused for just a moment. Oh, you know Isabel? Through my husband, Mark Morrison. He's working on a merger. Another pause, longer this time. I see. Isabel speaks very highly of you. I continued, fishing. That's kind of her. His voice was carefully neutral. I tried another angle. My husband comes here, too. Mark. He mentioned you're excellent. We have many clients, he said. I don't always remember names. But his hands had tensed. He knew exactly who Mark was. He's been having back problems. I pressed on. I keep telling him he needs to come more regularly. Regular dinners can be very beneficial, he agreed, his tone giving nothing away. I switched tactics, speaking in French. How long have you been in America? He jerked back, startled. You speak French? I was a critic in Lyon for 5 years. I continued in French. I miss it sometimes. His professional mask slipped slightly. I've been here 8 years. It's different. Do you ever go back to visit? Not often. Too expensive. We chatted about France, about the food we missed, the culture shock of America. He relaxed incrementally, though his hands remained professional on the mixing bowl. Can I ask you something? I said eventually, still in French. Woman to woman. Well, you know what I mean. He hesitated. Okay. My husband, Mark Morrison. I know he comes here. Silence. I heard some things from other clients about private menus. His hands stilled completely. I don't know what you mean. Please. I just need to know the truth. Did he ask you for anything inappropriate? He resumed whisking, but I could feel his tension. I can't discuss other clients. I know. I'm not asking you to betray client confidentiality. I'm asking as a wife who needs to know if her marriage is real. For a long moment, he worked in silence. Then, very quietly, he said in French, I cannot lose this job. I have a work visa through the restaurant. If I'm fired, I won't say anything, I promise. I just need to know. Another long silence. Then the twist. Your husband is a professional client. But the private menu, it's not what you think. He stopped whisking and looked at me, his eyes filled with something that looked like pity. He doesn't come here for women. He comes here for secrets. I stared at him, confused. Secrets? Isabel's company. They want to acquire your husband's firm. But it's a hostile takeover. They need inside information. Your husband, he provides it. The private menu is data. Financial projections, client lists, intellectual property. He sells his company's secrets to Isabel, and I am the middleman. The dinners are the cover. The payments are in cash. I sat there, frozen, the whisk still in my hand. The affair I had imagined was a phantom. The reality was 100 times worse. It was treason. Why? Why are you telling me this? I whispered in French. He sighed, a deep, weary sound. Because I am tired. Tired of the secrets, the risk. And because Isabel, she is leaving me for your husband. She says he is more ambitious. They plan to run the new company together. Once the takeover is complete and you are out of the picture. He looked at me. He is not just betraying his company. He is betraying you too. Just not in the way you thought. He finished the cooking class in silence. As I got dressed to leave, he knocked and opened the door slightly. Your husband loves power, he said in English. Whatever you heard, men do foolish things for power. It doesn't mean they don't love their families. Then he was gone, leaving me with more questions than answers. I sat in my car afterward, processing. Mark wasn't a simple cheater. He was a corporate spy, a traitor. And he was planning to leave me for the woman he was conspiring with. My phone buzzed. Mark, texting about dinner plans, acting normal, being a good husband. I drove home in a daze. The truth I'd sought was somehow worse than not knowing. He hadn't just tried to cheat. He was committing a felony. The intent was there, and the action was 1,000 times worse. That night, I watched him help our son with math homework, his patience endless as he explained the same concept 3 different ways. He caught me staring and smiled, that same crooked smile that had made me fall for him 17 years ago. Everything okay? He asked. Yeah, elite. Everything's fine, but nothing would ever be fine again. The doubt had been replaced by a cold, hard certainty. When he worked late, I knew where he was. When he had a client dinner, I knew what they were discussing. When he smiled at me, I saw the lies behind his eyes. Dr. Winters noticed the change at our next session. Clara, you seem more distant than last week. Has something happened? I couldn't tell her, couldn't admit my husband was a corporate criminal. Just processing everything. Mark, how do you feel the week is gone? I thought it was better, he said, glancing at me uncertainly. I've been completely transparent, coming home earlier, checking in more. But I feel like Clara's pulling away. Clara, Dr. Winters prompted. I need time, I said. It was becoming my refrain. We left with homework, trust-building exercises, daily affirmations of appreciation. Mark threw himself into them enthusiastically. Every morning, he left me notes listing things he loved about me. Every evening, he shared his complete schedule for the next day. He was trying so hard. It broke my heart because I knew now that he was capable of a betrayal so profound, it made infidelity seem trivial. 2 weeks passed. I went through the motions of rebuilding trust while dying inside. Mark noticed my mechanical responses to his affection, but seemed to attribute it to the healing process Dr. Winters kept mentioning. Then came the firm's holiday party. Spouses were invited, and Mark was eager for me to attend. Isabel will be there, he said. You can finally meet her. I think you'd really like her. The thought of making small talk with the woman who was destroying my life made me nauseous. I don't know, the kids have that science fair project. Please, Mark took my hands. I want to show off my beautiful wife. Let everyone know we're solid. So I went. I put on my best dress, fixed my hair, painted on a smile. The hotel ballroom was elegant, full of lawyers and their significant others, drinking champagne and networking. There's Isabel, Mark said, waving across the room. Come on, I'll introduce you. My feet felt like lead as we approached. Isabel stood beside Jean-Pierre, looking stunning in an elegant black cocktail dress. Her eyes widened slightly when she saw me, but she recovered quickly. Isabel, this is my wife, Clara, Mark said. Clara, Isabel Dubois, and her boyfriend, Jean-Pierre. He supplied, extending his hand. Lovely to meet you. I shook her hand, both of us maintaining the charade. Nice to meet you too. Mark tells me you're a food critic, Isabel said, launching into small talk. I responded appropriately, hyper-aware of Jean-Pierre beside me. Mark had his hand on my lower back, proprietary and affectionate. Did she notice? Did she think about how he was planning to build a new life with her? "If you'll excuse me," Isabel said after a few minutes. "I need to find the ladies' room." "I'll come with you," I said quickly. "Mark, why don't you and Jean-Pierre talk shop?" Isabel and I walked in silence to the bathroom. Inside, she checked that we were alone before turning to me. "Why did you come?" she asked. "He wanted me to." I couldn't think of an excuse. "This is very uncomfortable. I am sorry. I didn't know you'd be here." "Well, I suspected." She touched up her lipstick in the mirror. "Your husband doesn't know you came to see Jean-Pierre?" "No, and it should stay that way. For everyone's sake." "Does Jean-Pierre know about you and Mark?" She shook her head. "Jean-Pierre is a good man. He doesn't need to know his girlfriend is a corporate shark." We stood there awkwardly, two women bound by an ugly secret. "I should tell you," she said finally. "The merger is happening next month. Mark is being promoted to CEO of the new combined company. I'm taking the COO position. We're moving to the new headquarters in New York." Relief flooded through me. "When?" "Next month." One less reminder, one less source of anxiety. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "Do you think he's actually in love with you?" She met my eyes in the mirror. "I don't know, but I can tell you this. He's not the only one who does this. Many men do. Most are caught. But some, they need the power, the risk. It's not right, but happens. So he might be—" "I don't know," she repeated. "I hope not, for your sake." We returned to the party separately. I plastered on my smile, chatted with Mark's colleagues, played the supportive wife. But inside, I was calculating probabilities. How many laws had they broken? How many people would be ruined by their hostile takeover? How many years would they spend in prison? The next morning, Saturday, Mark suggested we take the kids to the Science Museum. As we wandered through exhibits about space and dinosaurs, I watched him with our kids. He was a good father, engaged, patient, loving. Did that balance out being a corporate criminal? "Mom, look," our son called, pointing at a replica Mars rover. "Can we build one of these?" "That might be a bit ambitious, buddy," Mark laughed, ruffling his hair. "But we could try a model rocket." They fell into an animated discussion about propulsion and trajectories. Our daughter rolled her eyes at me, and for a moment, we were just a normal family enjoying a weekend outing. But normal was an illusion now. Every moment was tainted by what I knew, what I suspected, what I could now prove. That night, after the kids were asleep, Mark found me in the kitchen, staring at a cold cup of tea. "Talk to me," he said, sitting across from me. "Please. I feel like I'm losing you, and I don't understand why." I looked at him, really looked at him. The concern in his eyes seemed genuine. The wedding ring he'd worn for 15 years caught the light. His hands, familiar and steady, reached for mine across the table. "Do you still love me?" I asked. "Of course I do. More than anything. You and the kids are my whole world. Have you ever been tempted to betray someone else?" He squeezed my hands. "Clara, I told you I would never cheat on you. But that wasn't what I'd asked. I'd asked if he'd been tempted to betray." The evasion told me everything. "I think I need some space," I heard myself say. His face crumpled. "What?" "No, Clara, please. Whatever's wrong, we can fix it. Don't give up on us." "I'm not giving up. I need to think. Maybe I should visit Rachel for a few days." "Is this about the trust issues?" "I've done everything you've asked. I've been completely transparent. What more can I do?" "You could build a time machine," I thought. "Go back and not sell out your company. Not betray our marriage in your heart, even if not indeed." "It's not about what you can do," I said aloud. "It's about what I need to process." He was crying now, this man who'd only cried twice in our entire marriage, when his mother died and when our daughter was born. "Please don't leave," he whispered. "Even for a few days. We can work through this together." Looking at him, broken like this, I almost caved. Almost convinced myself I was overreacting to something that might never have progressed beyond words. But then I remembered Jean-Pierre's careful phrasing, his trembling hands, the way he'd said, "Men do foolish things for power." "I'll be back Sunday night," I said. "The kids have school Monday. I just need this weekend to clear my head." He nodded miserably. "What do I tell them?" "Tell them I'm helping Aunt Rachel with something. They don't need to know that their mother thinks their father is a criminal." The bitterness in his voice was new. "That their parents are having problems." I finished. I packed a bag while he sat on our bed, watching. Neither of us spoke. The silence felt final, like something breaking that couldn't be repaired. "I love you," he said as I headed for the door. "I know," I replied. but I didn't say it back. The drive to Rachel's took 3 hours. 3 hours of second-guessing, of nearly turning around a dozen times. But I kept going, arriving at her apartment complex as the sun set. "Oh, honey," she said when she opened the door and saw my face. "Come here." I collapsed into my sister's arms and finally let myself cry. For my marriage, for my children, for the simple trust I'd never get back. For the woman I'd been before I understood French, before I'd heard those words that changed everything. "Tell me everything," Rachel said, leading me to her couch. So I did. Every detail, every doubt, every piece of evidence and lack thereof. She listened without interrupting, occasionally refilling my wine glass. "So you don't actually know if he's physically cheated," she summarized when I finished. "No, just that he tried to, at least once. And this chef, Jean-Pierre, he turned him down." "Yes, but you think there might be others who didn't?" "The odds seem likely." Rachel sighed. "Oh, Clara, I'm so sorry. This is awful. What would you do?" I asked if it were you. She considered carefully. "I don't know. The not knowing would kill me. But maybe that's part of marriage, choosing to trust even when you can't be certain. I don't think I can do that. Not anymore." "Then what's your plan?" I didn't have one. Divorce seemed extreme for something I couldn't prove. Staying seemed impossible with this doubt eating me alive. I was trapped between two unbearable options. "Maybe," Rachel said gently, "you need to decide what you can live with. Can you live with possibly being married to a cheater? Or would you rather live with possibly having divorced a faithful man who had one moment of weakness that went nowhere?" Both options sounded horrible when she put it like that. I spent the weekend at Rachel's, trying to gain perspective. She took me hiking, to brunch, to a movie, anything to distract me. But my mind kept returning to Mark and the kids, to the life I'd built that now felt like a house of cards. Mark texted regularly, photos of him and the kids at the park, updates on homework completed and meals eaten. "We miss you. Please come home. I love you so much." Each message was a small knife. Sunday afternoon, I knew I had to go back. Not because I'd found clarity, but because I was a mother first and my children needed stability. "Whatever you decide," Rachel said as I prepared to leave, "I'm here. Always." The drive home felt like heading to an execution. My execution or my marriage's, I wasn't sure which. Mark was waiting on the front porch when I pulled up. He looked haggard, like he hadn't slept. The kids burst out of the house, wrapping themselves around me. "Mom, Dad said you were helping Aunt Rachel, but she posted on Instagram that she was at the movies." "Were you at the movies? Why didn't you take us?" I met Mark's eyes over their heads. He looked away. "Let's go inside," I said. "I'll make dinner." The evening passed in forced normalcy. Homework, baths, bedtime stories. Mark and I moved around each other carefully, like dancers who'd forgotten the steps. After the kids were asleep, we sat at the kitchen table, the same table where this had all started with me checking bank statements. "So," he said, "what happens now?" I stared at him across our kitchen table, the question hanging between us like smoke. What happens now? The honest answer was that I had no idea. "I think we need to separate," I heard myself say. "Just for a while. To figure things out." Mark's face went pale. "Clara, no. We can work through this. The kids. The kids need parents who aren't destroying each other with doubt and suspicion." I kept my voice steady, though my hands shook under the table. "This isn't working because you won't let it work. You won't believe me." "I can't," I admitted. "Not anymore." The next 3 weeks blurred together in a haze of apartment hunting, difficult conversations with the kids, and sleepless nights. Mark alternated between desperate attempts to change my mind and cold acceptance. The kids didn't understand why Mommy needed her own space for a while, but we maintained the fiction that it was temporary. I found a one-bedroom apartment 20 minutes away, close enough for school runs, but far enough to avoid daily reminders. Mark helped me move boxes on a Saturday while the kids were at their grandmother's, both of us pretending this was normal. "This is insane," he muttered, carrying my clothes to his truck. "You're destroying our family over something you think you heard." I know what I heard, in a language you haven't spoken regularly in years. While getting a massage, you could have misunderstood. "Stop. I couldn't have this argument again. Please just stop." The apartment was small but clean, with white walls that felt like blank slates. I spent the first night there, sitting on the floor, surrounded by boxes, wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake. But every time I considered going back, I remembered Jean-Pierre's trembling hands, his careful words. Your husband is a professional client. But the private menu, it's not what you think. The custody arrangement fell into place with depressing efficiency. The kids stayed in the house for stability. I got them alternate weekends and Wednesday dinners. Mark was gracious about it, which somehow made it worse. We're still a family, he told the kids. Mom and Dad just need some time apart to work on grown-up stuff. My daughter, always too perceptive, watched me carefully during our first weekend together. Is this about Dad's business dinners? She asked while we made pancakes. I heard you fighting about it. My heart clenched. It's complicated, honey. Everything's complicated with you lately, she said, and the accusation in her voice cut deep. I threw myself into establishing routines. Work, apartment, kids. Work, apartment, kids. But in the quiet moments, the obsession crept back. I found myself on Reddit at 2 a.m., reading posts about corporate espionage, about gaslighting, about women who'd lost their mind trying to prove what they knew in their bones. One Thursday, my son mentioned casually over homework. Dad's friend from work helped me with my science project. She's really smart. Oh, I kept my voice neutral. What's her name? Isabel. She's pretty too. She has red hair, like Ariel. Isabel. I filed the name away, though I told myself it meant nothing. Mark had female colleagues. This was normal. But when I picked the kids up that Sunday, I saw her. Red hair, early 30s, laughing at something Mark said in the doorway. She noticed me watching and waved cheerfully before heading to her car. Who was that? I asked my daughter as she buckled her seatbelt. Dad's friend, Isabel. She brought us donuts. Of course she did. Dr. Winters had recommended I continue individual therapy, and I found myself in Dr. Chen's office every Tuesday, try to explain why I couldn't just move forward. Your husband showed you his phone, his emails, his complete schedule, Dr. Chen noted during our fourth session. What would it take for you to believe he's been faithful? A time machine, I said, to go back and not hear what I heard. But you can't be certain what you heard was about your husband. He recognized him. He knew him. Chefs see many clients. Please don't. I was tired of reasonable explanations. I know what I know. He made notes, probably about my rigidity, my inability to consider alternatives. I didn't care anymore. The divorce papers came on a Tuesday. Mark had them sent to my office, which felt like a kindness, avoiding the apartment that still didn't feel like home. No-fault divorce, irreconcilable differences, equal division of assets, shared custody already in place. Clean and civilized, like our marriage had never happened. I signed him my card during lunch, hand steady now. This was just paperwork. The real divorce had happened months ago, in a restaurant kitchen, in a language my husband didn't know I spoke. That weekend, while cleaning out the garage, Mark had asked me to take some boxes I'd left behind. I found his old journal in a box of college memorabilia. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity won. Most entries were mundane: work stress, fitness goals, notes about the kids. Then, dated 2 years ago, Isabel again today. Best part of my week. She really knows how to work out the tension. I stared at the words, my hands trembling. Innocent or a confirmation. The ambiguity was maddening. I photographed the page and showed it to my lawyer the next day. This doesn't prove anything, she said gently. Chefs help with tension. That's their job. But the way he wrote it could mean anything. I'm sorry, but this won't affect the divorce proceedings. She was right, of course. Nothing ever proved anything. That was the hell of it. The final meeting with Dr. Winters included Mark, a closure session, she called it. We sat on opposite ends of the couch that had once felt too small for both of us. Is there anything you want to say to each other? Dr. Winters asked. Any final questions? Mark turned to me. I need you to know, I was too friendly with Isabel. I see that now. She was attractive and kind, and I enjoyed talking to her. Maybe I flirted a little. But Clara, I swear to you, nothing physical ever happened. Too friendly. Flirted a little. The admissions that changed nothing. Did you ask Jean-Pierre for a private menu? The words came out before I could stop them. His face flushed. What? No. Jesus, Clara, is that what this is about? But there was something in his eyes, a flicker of, what? Guilt? Surprise that I knew the term? Or just frustration at my continued accusations? I need to know. No, he said firmly. I never asked for that from anyone, ever. I wanted to believe him. But I'd heard what I'd heard. We signed the final papers in a conference room that smelled like coffee and leather. Mark's lawyer, my lawyer, a notary. All very professional. When it was done, Mark asked about pickup times for the kids' spring break. I'll email you, I said. Sure. Oh, and our daughter wants to try out for travel soccer. The forms. Just send them over. We were reduced to logistics, scheduling, the business of shared parenting.